And then he said, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills.
I can't catch a break, guys.
Yeah.
Get them the fuck away from me. I can't be around those guys.
People think, oh, well, cleaning your room, that's just a cliche. It's like, yeah, really, eh? Just go ahead and try it.
If people had any idea how powerful sleep is for healing from anything, and the fact that it's free.
My mind is absolutely bulletproof, solid as a rock.
Podcast.
Hello. Hey guys, how is everybody doing? Welcome to another episode of the Fight and Fit Show. Today I am joined with Chris. How are you doing, Chris?
I am very well. How are you?
Good. I am very well also. Brandon is not very well. He's not joining us today. He's off sick. We send him our love and hopefully he gets well soon. So today's podcast, me and Chris are going to bring you our interpretation of Outwitting the Devil. This is a book that Chris popularized a few months back. It's a book that helped him to stop drifting, I think, and something that kind of resonated and had a lot of positive impact in your life, and also generated a lot of kind of questions from clients and this a lot of interest around this topic. So that is going to be the topic for today. Chris, because you are the one that read the book first or the most. I haven't actually finished the book. I've read parts of it and a couple of book summaries and that kind of stuff. But I'll let you take it away. Outwitting the Devil.
Okay.
Give us your key lesson or your biggest takeaway.
What it is. So it's basically an interview with the devil from, like, let's say, an old-timey sort of interviewer, not looking for sound bites or anything like that. Most interviews these days, everyone's looking for sound bites or asking the question that will give them the most clicks and all that. So this is like a really in-depth interview that is about 3 hours long. And it's this guy who interviews the devil. He basically conjures him up in his own sort of mind and can actually have a full-on conversation with him. It's really, really cool. But basically, he asks him, how do you control so many people and all this sort of stuff? And the devil's bragging, saying, I control 98% of the population. And he does this through getting people to drift and getting them to drift off purpose. And it's very, very cool because he explains how he does it. In this interview, the devil cannot lie. And because he can't lie, he starts asking him, Joe, how does he do it? And how do you stop it? And all this sort of stuff. And he basically gives away all the secrets. And this book explains how to do it. And the main way that he does it is he does it through fear. People live in two sort of states, in faith or in fear. And the 6 fears that he gets people to, or he uses to manipulate people into drifting, is a fear of poverty, fear of criticism, fear of ill health, fear of old age, and then a fear of death. And then there's one more, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's one more, I forget what it is. But basically,
poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and death.
Loss of love, yeah. So all of those fears basically stop people from doing what they really, really want to do. They're afraid. Those fears basically like, oh crap, can't do that because of this, can't do that because of that, and that rationalizes it in their head. When you look at it whether you're looking at this from a psychological perspective, or if you're looking at it from like a literal perspective, if you believe in the devil and all that sort of stuff, or even just like
spiritual perspective,
spiritual sort of thing, like it's really, really cool to see how it works. Because when you implement this sort of stuff, like when I did it, like the improvements that I've made to my own habits, my own routines, and all this sort of stuff is absolutely like incredible. And then what I've also noticed is when I let bad habits encroach back in as well, how that takes away from it, and how like you just start seeing stuff like compound. One of the cool principles in it is this thing called the Law of Hypnotic Rhythm, which is, when I was doing my good habits, like let's say something like taking a protein shake every day post-workout, it takes a lot of energy to, not even like energy, it just takes a little bit of focus and a little bit of discipline and mental effort to remember to do it. But one of the ways that I sort of did it, another lesson that it has is control your environment, make sure your environment's set up for success. It's that law is echoed in The Power of Habit as well. But basically, I just had my protein like easy and accessible. Okay, so it wasn't in the back of a press somewhere where I had to go dig it out. Okay, it was like sitting on the counter, ready to go. I had my little blender set up, plugged in, ready to go with my my little blender thing, ready to go. And I just made sure that I had it easy. So as soon as I came in for my workout, I would have it, boom, there and then. That was one good habit. And then like that sort of boosts your self-esteem to know that you can follow through with something so simple, like over and over and over again. So then after that, I stacked it with putting creatine in it as well. So then it was like, boom, boom, Like you just start stacking it, and then you have water with it, and then because after a workout I would have normally got a coffee, this is all set up right beside my kettle. John, that was really easy to do. And then all of a sudden, now it's unconscious. It's not a conscious effort thing at all, and that's the law of hypnotic rhythm. But what can also happen is, like, let's say when I get in from my workout in the evening, I can get stuck in a scroll hole sitting outside my house in my car, because before I go out, I'll check my phone and I'll get stuck out there. And that, if I'm not conscious, I don't put a conscious effort in eliminating that, it gets very, very easy to become unconscious of that habit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I actually like that. I think I might have heard you say before, but it's a cool frame, the scroll hole, because I feel like that, like, I feel like social media and the scroll hole, or the feed, is stealing hours and hours and days and weeks of people's lives. And it's a behavior that we all engage in, and at times it's very unconscious. And yeah,
most of the time it's unconscious. That's the state. It actually, like, puts you in a state where you are unconscious and you're just absorbing stuff, like, into your subconscious, without even knowing. Like, the eyes sort of glaze over and you get into this sort of like zoned out, sort of like state.
Yeah,
it's funny.
Before we proceed, I'd actually love to just get your thoughts on it, because obviously this kind of book, I know, was actually quite controversial back in its day, because obviously, you know, as people were maybe a lot more religious back then, so to kind of have a book about the devil was probably a bit more of a big deal back then, or even now it's a bit of a weird title. But, like, I think it's important to start off like trying to maybe define the devil, or what is that? Because obviously some people hear the devil, they're not into religion, they're kind of thinking like, what is that? What do you feel like the devil is?
What do I feel
is
like?
Is it a person? Is it an energy? Is it?
I think
the yin and the yang.
I have two. Like, I haven't decided on what I actually believe that it is 100% yet. I have a few different ideas of what I think it could be. I think the devil is real, but in the sense that it's an idea. Do you get me? And that it works like, if you believe in the devil, John, like, it works. It's real, John. If you let's say take it from the interpretation that it's just this dense negative energy from everyone in the whole world, and it causes you to do all these bad things, like, it works essentially like an evil spirit that's trying to manipulate everyone to do bad things. And, like, practically it works like that. Whether I believe that that's actually like an actual entity, I don't know, but I can't say that it's not, if that makes sense. So I haven't decided on what I think of it officially. I will fall back on the idea that it's just an idea. It's an idea that works psychologically rather than an actual entity that's doing that. But low key, like, thinking that, like, it could be. You don't know.
Because recently I heard a definition of God that I liked, and it was God is love. And it's like, so, like, the devil would be the opposite of love. Any action or energy that kind of moves things in the opposite direction of love. Not 100. Like, the opposite of love is not hate, though. I can't think of the right word of what the opposite of love is.
Apathy.
Yeah, it's more like that. It's more like apathy. It's not actually hate. It is actually more like apathy. And as it kind of moves towards this kind of concept of drifting, I feel like it's just like the natural, like, this kind of concept of neglect, you know, in terms of drifting, kind of reminds me of the analogy of the garden. You know, like, the weeds grow. This is kind of the natural order, the natural way of the world, that the weeds will naturally grow, that people will naturally drift without things like, you know, definiteness of purpose and different things. And I think that's kind of really what moves people in the right direction, or kind of what this kind of concept of the devil is. It's just this kind of, as you mentioned, this kind of apathy, this kind of procrastination.
You stop trying. Yeah. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, when things get really, really hard for people, you know, they just sort of like give up, and they just sort of accept it, and they just stop. Like, there's a lot of people that, including myself, like, I go through phases with this as well, like everyone does. But
seasons, I like to call them.
Yeah, seasons. Where, like, you can, like, you need to rest, you need to recover, but you can also get lazy. And when you get lazy, you start trying to get comfortable. And when you get comfortable, you know, like, it's nice being comfortable, but you can pick up a lot of bad habits when you're comfortable. But you can, like, do a hell of a lot by literally just deciding that I want to do something. If you want to do something, you can literally just sit there and decide, I'm going to start trying to do this. Now, you might not do it really well at the start, but you can do it better and better. And you can do this thing like with incremental improvement, or with, like through an iterative process. When I say that, I mean like you do it badly once, you figure out what you did bad, and then you do it again less bad, and then you do it again less bad, you do it again less bad, and all of a sudden you fix like 5 different things about it, and then you're doing something that's pretty decent. And you can decide to do that with every single area in your life whenever you want, and that's one of the cool powers of living consciously. And that's what he means by like definitive of purpose. So like there's drifters and then there's non-drifters, and like the things that I have written out here, we have non-drifters have definitiveness of purpose. They try and develop self-mastery. They learn from adversity. They control their environment, and they understand the importance of time. They understand the importance of harmony, and they're cautious with their actions. And if like a drifter is someone who basically does the opposite of that, so like they don't have definitiveness of purpose, so they're aimless. They don't have something that they're aiming at. So if you don't, you should probably have something to aim at. Anything, literally anything in a positive direction. Then self-mastery, so they're a slave to their emotions and impulses, and like they have no level of control of that. So like if they are hungry, they eat. If they are sleepy, they sleep. If they're like they don't do stuff that they're not bothered to do because they're comfortable and they're not used to pushing themselves. They don't learn from adversity, so something bad happens, instead of thinking of it as like they'll think like, woe is me, this is so hard, I can't learn from this. They'll basically just
instead of looking at it as an opportunity to grow, the obstacle is the way type attitude.
Exactly. So like and then after that, controlling your environment, they don't like, there's a hopelessness to it. Like there's nothing I can do about it. This is just the way it is. I'm here now. I can't do anything to implement any change. And it's like you've way more like power to change the stuff around you than you think you do. Even if it's only small, you can make small improvements like that. And then time is very, very important to understand that. Like there's a cool thing I recently I went to the Van Gogh thing, and I got a mouse pad. The mouse pad is basically like a skeleton. I forget the name of the painting, but it's a skeleton like smoking a cigarette. And I have that on my desk now because there's a cool phrase called like live with it as if there's a skull on your table. And what that means is that like you're going to die. Like you're going to die, I'm going to die. And it's going to probably happen a lot quicker than you think. Like I'm 28 now. So I don't feel 28. I feel like I'm nearly 30. And there's less and less time every single year, if that makes sense. Like it's nearly Christmas. Like it feels like it's still 2021, like the end of 2020. It's weird.
Time goes faster and faster, people say. Supposedly.
Exactly.
I've noticed that.
So understanding that part of it, time as well. But also there's just a concept in it known as he calls it the Law of Hypnotic Rhythm. And that allows you to use time to your advantage. So it can be a negative and it can be a positive. So like the time is going to pass, and it's going to pass quickly or slowly or whatever way you want to sort of perceive it. But if you start implementing good habits, the hypnotic rhythm where you get lulled into this sort of state of like it becoming unconscious, that can happen over a period if you implement conscious effort to put that habit into place. I hope that makes sense. So understanding that time can do that for you. Time can absolutely do that. And the skull on your table is really, really good for motivation. Like you're going to die, time's running out. You better get your stuff in order, or like
to create some urgency. Otherwise,
Exactly.
it's just this never-ending cycle of I'll start Monday. It's like, well, there's only so many Mondays. Like when are we going to get started here?
It's actually, there's a cool thing that you can look up. I'm not sure if you can do it now, but it's like how many weeks you have left to live.
Yeah, I remember. I think we had this printed out in the other fighting fit. Actually, I had this up on the wall in the office, and it's not as many as you think.
It's actually scary. It's actually very, very, very scary. And fear is a good motivator. But also harmony. This was a big one for me. Actually, yeah, it's like I haven't listened to this book in a while. But harmony was a very, very good one, because one of the things that my personality type, I'm not sure if you believe in that sort of stuff, but when I did it, it really resonated with me. And when I did 2 personality tests. One was the Myers-Briggs, and one was the Big Five by Jordan Peterson. And it turns out that I'm really disagreeable, and that I'm an ENTP. That's known as the debater. Stephen, you're also disagreeable, and you're also an ENTP, and we can clash like that there. But one of the things that this book says that like you want to create harmony wherever you go as well. And I used to like create conflict, because like there's some part of me like revels in it, is like likes the competition, likes the end result of me being like, oh, I won that little dominance dispute there, or whatever it was, or even just like, oh, I came out smarter, or whereas like it doesn't have to be like that at all. You can create harmony every single where you go, where by agreeing to disagree, making sure people's emotions are managed, making sure everyone feels heard, making sure that like there's a good vibe and that the interaction ends well, rather than trying to make it combative, if that makes sense. And that one really, really resonated with me. And then caution, the last one for non-drifters is, like, think before you act, look before you leap. Before you make any big decisions, like, just think it through first and then do it.
Yeah,
that's really
what they were the 7 principles which help us gain mental, spiritual, and physical freedom, as according to this book. Number 1, again, just to recap, was definiteness of purpose. Number 2, mastery over self. 3, learning from adversity. 4, controlling environmental influence. So again, the people you hang around with. 5 is time. 6 is harmony, and 7 is caution. So people that kind of follow these principles, will live happier lives according to this book. And this book was written by Napoleon Hill, who's written a lot of kind of self-help books. He's many books in the top 100, particularly Think and Grow Rich, I think, is his biggest hit. Is sold millions and millions of copies over the last 50, 60, 70 years. These aren't new books. These books, that's what I like about all this stuff. Like, anyone who's in the personal development space and kind of is into this stuff will notice the same stuff coming up again and again and again, just told in a different way with different stories and slightly different kind of nuances. But again, very, very interesting. And this one here, number 1, definiteness of purpose. This kind of whole concept of, even like we talked about in the podcast the other week, like, being proactive and that kind of stuff, like having goals and kind of going after something. Like, did you ever see, like, like you're walking down the street and somebody's walking, but they're walking with purpose? Like, people literally move out of their way because this person looks like they know where they're going, where someone's kind of walking down, head down, so you're looking, bumping into people on the way past, or aimless, they don't really know where they're going, but if somebody's head up, they're focused, they're looking at where they're going, and they're walking with a sense of urgency. Again, literally, the world will open up for you, and I've noticed that in my own life. You know what I mean? Like, literally, like the stuff. Even me going in this retreat now in a couple of weeks, I'm like, how did I even get here? But again, it's like I planned it. I made it happen. I set the goal. I set the intention, and and took some action, and here we are.
I have an idea and a couple of questions for you. Okay, so the idea first is this concept. There's this thing called the reticular activation system, which is like, see, when you aim at something, like, you start seeing stuff pop up around it. So, like, the analogy that I like to use with this is, ever played a game Yellow Reg, where you're in the backseat of your brother, and you fucking punch him in the arm. It's like Yellow Reg, and also
mini pinch. Mini pinch.
Mini pinch. What's that?
It's the same concept. When you see a mini, you basically pinch them.
Mini pinch. Yes, yeah. But then all of a sudden you start seeing them everywhere, and the reason for that is, like, you have something to look for, and when you have that, you start seeing different things. So, like, if you decide that you have a goal and you say, like, okay, I want to lose weight, I want to lose this amount of weight, you make it specific, then you can start to find, like, stuff will just pop up out of nowhere that you would have been blind to. There's a really cool video on YouTube, actually, just that proves this thing. Like, it's the gorilla video. Now, I kind of spoiled it now. So I kind of spoiled it, but most people will have seen it anyway. So basically, there's this video. It's a load of people playing basketball, and then the whole goal, if you want to trick your friends and see an actual reaction to it, you basically play this video, search a gorilla basketball site video or whatever. I don't really know what to search, but it's a load of people count the passes or whatever it is, and there's 2 basketballs, and then there's a load of people passing it, and you're trying to count how many things there are, and all you're doing is looking for the amount of counts that there is. And in the middle of this, as you're trying to count, okay, because it tricked me as well. As you're trying to count, you're going bum, bum, bum. You are completely blind to the fact that a gorilla, like, just slowly, casually walks into the center of the bloody thing and just starts beating his chest, and then walks off, and you miss it entirely because you're trying to count the passes. And you're blind to what you're not looking for, and you only see what you're aiming at. And if you set a goal like that there, you'll start seeing stuff pop up for how to do it better, or how to improve with it, or how to attain it. And that works, like, really, really, really well. What do you think of that idea of the reticular activation system?
No, I love that idea. First heard that idea from Tony Robbins. I'm not sure which of his programs or books. I think it was the Unlimited Power or something. That was the one when I first heard of it, and it's so true. But when you were saying that, I feel like it's kind of like the same thing. Also, P.S. It's called, if you Google the invisible gorilla, I googled it there. It's the invisible gorilla. If you want to find the actual video. But as you were talking about there, like I feel like it's the opposite is also true. I feel like people also use the reticular activation system, but they use it for negative. It's like the yin and the yang. Everyone kind of has pros and cons. So whereas when people have problems, they look for reasons to justify their problems. So it's the same kind of concept. So like saying, "Oh, I can't achieve this because I'm poor," and then we're hyper focused on finding all the reasons that we're poor and all the things that justify why we're poor and all the reasons that justify our limitations, etc. So it's not so all this stuff it's like a double edged sword. It's always also kind of positive and negative. But again, when you set a goal,
that's actually wow, that's really, 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 really true.
Yeah, I think and that's something I notice all the time. I'm just so aware of just kind of listening to people's limiting beliefs, etc. Obviously, it's easier to coach other people than it is to coach yourself. But
there's actually
I'm just so aware of it. I hear it all the time.
I heard a cool thing for that because I coach people is really like easy. You know, if someone comes to me with their problems or whatever, it's like because I'm looking at it from my perspective, it's really easy. But it's like you can't see your own eye from your own eye. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You can't sort of like squeeze your own hand or whatever. Like you can't. Yeah, I don't know how else to explain it. Like you can't see.
It's just mostly because you can't get past your own emotions. Like like you're stuck in it. Even like I always kind of really curious. Something I've kind of been thinking about a little while the last couple of weeks. Like how do people perceive me? Like if somebody had to describe me, like how would somebody describe me? Like everybody has their own little quirks and everyone's a little bit weird and stuff. Like I've always like, what is mine? Like do I just lack the self-awareness to know, or like I just wonder what it is. It's interesting. Do you want to just kind of see yourself from an external perspective?
Yeah, everyone always wants to think that. I think that's why I did both the personality tests.
To get two perspectives. One was
It'd be like what am I like? I don't like you don't know. You really don't know. All you know is like what other people have said to you, and people are biased. Some people are being nice. Some people are being extra mean. It depends on whoever tells you what to do, but like. Or what they think of you from their limited perspective of you as well. Like at the end of the day, only you really know you. And I find like your impression on other people, is not actually like who you are either. But you do always want to know how you're perceived because
because this whole concept of like I love the concept of like the higher self and the lower self, and like the lower self is the part of you that's kind of trapped in your emotions and gets is reactive and gets pulled into all the kind of the small-minded stuff that can distract us kind of day to day, and then kind of the real you is the higher you, the higher self, the person that kind of who wants to change the world, who wants to love and take care of all the friends and family. That's I feel like that's who we really are, but we get bogged down in our emotions day to day and just kind of the limitations of say our body versus our spirit or our higher self.
Yeah, well, there's the whole thing with yoga and even with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, with the different chakras in yoga. So you got all these different layers that you have to sort of balance on top of you. Remember, we were talking about this on Saturday. So the whole thing of like aligning your chakras is like, you make sure all of these different things are like set up so that you can self-actualize and you can actually be your higher self. Because if you don't if you don't feel safe and secure, and you don't have like a home to go to, being your best self isn't really important right now. We need to find fucking shelter, or it's like if we don't get food, we're gonna be screwed. If you feel like you're not loved, if you feel like you're not in a place where you can develop whatever it is, like all you're gonna do is look for love. It's really like what's another one as well? What are the Maslow? What are hierarchy? What are all the
hierarchy of needs? But again, it essentially is the path to self-actualization, and that's kind of work. But and I feel like that is so true because most people can't get out of. We've kind of mentioned this before on the podcast, but like a lot of people just can't. First off, it's financial. First, people just like it's very hard to think in terms of like 3 and 5 year visions and missions and all this kind of stuff when you're worried about the next paycheck, you're worried about kind of the bills month to month, and supposedly this is kind of how people are controlled in a sense. And as say the devil controls people, like number one is fear of poverty. Like this is kind of why like, and a lot of people just can't get above the breadline. To even be concerned about these types of things.
So Maslow's hierarchy.
They don't have the luxury of self-actualization.
Exactly. No, that's exactly it. So like you can't do it until the other ones are solved because your brain, like your whole nervous system is wired to solve the other problems first. That's literally it, and that's how this was developed. This is genius. So you got physical needs first: air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, and reproduction. That's the root chakra. Then you got safety needs, personal security. This is mad.
Yeah.
This is mad how these are chakras.
It's the exact same as the chakras. That's what I say earlier on. Like this whole thing about everything. It's the same stuff repeated in different ways, in different, depending on what part of the world you came from.
Yeah. Safety needs, personal security, employment, resources, health, and poverty are the sacral chakra. Then you've got love and belonging, friendship and intimacy. That's solar plexus, but I think that's more the heart chakra. So it could be a little bit different.
I think I might skip a chakra. I think, or might blend two together.
The last one, the top one, I think is self-actualization, which is the thing.
God chakra.
And this is imagination, does it? Maybe. Anyway, yeah, actually, I think it does. So you got love and belonging, which is friendship, intimacy, family, sense of connection. So again, like if you don't have these things, well then like how are you going to like try and become your best self? So if you don't have any friends, you don't have any intimacy, you don't have family, you don't have a sense of connection or anyone, like the feeling to solve this problem will be overwhelming for you. And if you don't have respect, self-esteem, status, recognition, strength, or freedom, well then again, these are the problems you're going to try and solve before you start self-actualizing, which is really, really cool. So
which I feel is, to just extend this 1%, is just like is the only way to be happy. If you're not trying to self-actualize, I feel like you're never going to be happy. Like that is the path to happiness, I feel, as far as I can figure it out.
Well, what I think is really cool is that but
it's just the trying. It's just the trying, not the succeeding. Like as long as you're trying, just giving your genuine best effort to try and be the best version of you. It's like
what I was going to say is that like there's happiness in ascending that hierarchy of needs. So like if you go from like someone who has all their physical needs not met, and then you slowly start meeting them, you're like, oh, this is better, this is better, this is better, this is better, and then all of a sudden then it's safety, and you're like, oh, okay, now you get that reassurance of it, and then after that it's like love and belonging, and you're like, oh, this is bloody great, and then it's self-esteem, then you're like confidence is building, all that jazz, and then from that position of all that stability, then you can start self-actualizing, and it's like as you start going up through that, it's every step you'll get happier and happier and happier, and that's like the whole thing of like elevating your consciousness and all this sort of stuff, like, and that's like all your chakras being aligned into the one thing, and then you have this state of bliss, which is really cool. No,
that's pretty cool. Again, I really like this book. It is also supposed to be a very easy listen or a very easy read.
It's so the voices in it, like I thought it was so entertaining. Like your man does the voice for the devil is like, it's hilarious. And like in the book, the devil keeps trying to get out of it. He keeps trying to like worm his way around these questions and all this sort of stuff. And your man's like, back to the point. Let's go. And like he starts trying to like, there's another one as well. Like you can use like about flattery and all this sort of stuff. There's a load more to it than the stuff that I'm just saying here. And it's just really interesting to see like it's how like when you're listening to the book, it's like the devil's on your shoulder and he's talking exactly what you think he'd be like, which is really, really cool. And you learn to outwit him, and every single time that like one of the reasons why I could keep up so many habits was because I visualized that like it's the devil, and every time I was doing something good, I was like, fuck you. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm doing it this way, you're not getting me this time. And looking at it from that perspective, like really, really helps keep everyone real good. And everyone has this thing where they want to be a good person. No one wants to be spiteful, no one wants to be bitter or all that sort of stuff. So if you're not like
nobody wants to procrastinate. People want to get the work done. People want to do the thing. People want to show up. People want to be on time. People want to do all these things. It's this whole thing drift. It's like you know what I mean? Well, I won't. Like it's easy to be lulled into the habit of drifting and just kind of letting things slide. But as you said, once you kind of start to visualize, every time I let it slide, it's a point for the devil. It's like, okay, actually, yeah, fuck this guy.
Yeah, exactly. And but that attitude like of like, no, fuck you, like that, because he's trying constantly. He's trying constantly just to get you to fall off, and you're like, not today. But then then you're tired. One day you're tired, and then he gets you, and you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
And it's just a good way. It's a really, really good way to visualize it, or not to to conceptualize it.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. Like, I want to wrap this up in a couple of minutes. Do you have anything else from the book? Any other kind of key takeaways that you'd like the people to know? And again, just so people know that it is this. If you Google it, it is, or if you YouTube, it is available for free on YouTube, or you can also get it on Audible. Or I haven't actually seen the physical book. I've only listened to it. Well, most of it. But yeah, free on YouTube or on Audible.
A couple of points. His enemies are people who inspire other people to act. So right now we're like Outwitting the Devil. Hopefully we're inspiring you to read this book or listen to it, and then it'll actually have a positive impact on your life, and then you can stop. You can become one of the 2% that isn't under his control. A couple other points before. Well, this book was written like in the 1930s, whatever it was, before the scientists came out and were like, "Oh, smoking's really bad for you." And he's pointing out like he gets people to drift through alcohol and through smoking when they're young. John, he says that smoking takes your energy. It basically like diminishes your capacity to be persistent, and it just gives you loads of little bad habits and all that. You know, like running out for a smoke every like fucking 3 hours or whatever it is, just to fulfill that little craving, and then you give in, and you know it's something you shouldn't do. So then, like, you just
you erode your self-image.
Exactly.
Every time you let yourself down, you erode your self-image, you erode your self-confidence.
Yeah, exactly. And with drinking as well, you know, it makes you sick. It makes you have less energy, and you can like one of the main things I noticed is that when I had my sleep on point, it was so much easier to tell the devil to fuck off than when I didn't. And because like bad habits are easy, and you need conscious energy. You need like effort. It does require like some sort of, you know, actual push. And when you're underslept, you don't have that push. Like you don't have like not that you don't have it. It's just
it's much harder.
Yeah, you've way less. You've way less of it. Do you know what I mean? If you want to do like lots and lots and lots of different things, well then, like, you only have so much energy. And if you don't if you're after killing a workout in the morning, do you know, and then it comes to this thing, you're like, oh god, no, I can't do that. Do you know? And then like, but if you're well slept, well then you're full of beans. You have loads of energy. Like one of the big things, if you sort out your sleep, you will have so much more energy than you would if you didn't. Like 6 hours sleep is not enough. 6 hours sleep, most people think is like, oh sure, I'm getting enough, blah, blah, because they're not like actually tired, but they don't know what it's like to have like this sense of vitality. And if you have like 5 nights in a row of like really, really good sleep, you have vitality where like the devil's trying to catch you, like, you're never gonna get me. He's like chasing after you. You're like, nah, not today. There's no way you're getting me. Whereas when you're tired, he's like catching up in you, and then it becomes like a negative spiral as well. Through that law of hypnotic rhythm, you know, it gets easier and easier and easier to just go into the spiral. That's the main thing about it, is that like the power of that hypnotic rhythm. It can either work for you really, really well, or it can work for you really, really badly. And I wanted to start when I had like lots and lots and lots of motivation. I still do have lots of motivation now, but there was a time where I had like an insane amount of motivation. I was sleeping really, really well, but I was setting up loads of good habits that when I was tired, like the protein shake one, like I can still implement that because it's unconscious. It's really, really easy. It's not hard, and I have it set up in my environment so that there's no resistance to it whatsoever. A big plus to that is the protein shakes, shameless plug, that we have right now. Like I went through nearly all the flavors now. I still have to try the strawberry one, but like the best protein I've ever had in my entire life. Like it's absolutely delicious. Every single flavor I get, I'm like, that's amazing, that's amazing, that's amazing. I rate protein shakes like there's 4 different ones in. There's 4 different levels to a protein shake in terms of tastiness from my perspective. Okay, the lowest on that rank is water. Okay, water is the lowest. Then after that, it is almond milk. Okay, after almond milk, it is full fat milk or skim milk or semi or low fat milk. Either one of them, they're both in the same sort of category for me. And then oat milk is at the top. It is like the sweetest, creamiest, best way to have a protein shake ever. And if you have a cold oat milk protein shake post-workout, all right, it will change. Like from the brand that we have, Optimum Nutrition, it is absolutely delicious. And once you do it once, you won't want to stop. Just saying.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, guys, we're going to have to wrap it up here. Chris has got a PT in a few minutes. Thanks to everybody who listened. If you enjoyed it, make sure to let us know. Drop a like, drop a comment, send us a message if you're a member. Any questions, let us know. We'll hope to see you in the next one. And just a note before we leave, just that thing you said about energy, like just to emphasize, like, or sleep. I talk to people all the time who are kind of want to have better energy, but they're literally not even looking at their sleep, as if they're not aware that there's a correlation between their sleep and their energy levels. They're always looking at like, you know, like food or supplements or all these other stuff. It was like, I'm like, well, you're pissing against the wind unless you get your sleep sorted.
No, 100%. 100%.
Yeah. So I'll leave you guys with that one again. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you taking the time out to watch this episode. As I said, any feedback, let us know, and we will see you in the next one.